Live from across the tri-states, this is KHQA This Morning. It's your news now.
She joins us live this morning from the Performance Spine and Sports Center in Quincy. Boy, she really went a far away, didn't she?
Just across the street, maybe?
Hey, Kristen.
Hi, good morning. Yep, I had a huge distance to travel to this morning, but spring is here and so are this season's sports. Is your athlete prepared to keep his body safe or her body safe? This morning we'll show you the most common injuries and show you how to prevent it from your athlete getting hurt this season. You're watching KHQA This Morning.
Well, our very own Kristen Aguirre is out and about in the tri-state area this morning.
Yep, she is making sure our young athletes are in tip-top shape this morning. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning. That's right. Spring is here, and that means that spring season's sports are in full swing. Now, it's kind of a busy time for the field and for you here.
That's right. You know, as the kids get into their spring activities, you know, their bodies start to wear out. You know, they're working hard. There's a lot of games, a lot of practices, and a lot of times that leads to injuries.
Now, what is the most common injury that you see here?
Probably, I would say a combination of backs, shoulders, and knees, especially with these spring athletes.
Mm-hmm. And we were saying it's not necessarily like you know, that bad slide into first place. Obviously, those can cause injuries, but it's almost the repetitive motion that's causing these injuries. That's
right. Repetitive use injuries are probably the most common out of all injuries. In an athlete, probably 80 to 90% of those are repetitive use.
Mm-hmm. So it's just like a baseball player or softball player constantly swinging, a pitcher constantly doing the underhand, or you know, all of those movements are what's causing the injury.
Yep, that's right. You know, when you get into some of these sports like that, we train like a pitcher will throw multiple pitches, you know, in a game, in practice, and all those little micro tears that just occur normally, they don't get the time to heal, and that's where the injuries occur.
All right, well, this morning we are going to go ahead and show you some of the most common injuries, and we'll show you how to prevent it, and what I'll get even put through a test to see if I have any injuries, and I think a lot of me is injured.
She's going to want a massage after this.
Yeah, I hope you have no injuries because I don't want to see you
Any
get hurt.
takers? Take at the station?
All right, thanks, Kristen. What happens across the street is Kristen Aguirre helps get your kids in shape for spring.
And learning ways not to get hurt while doing it.
That's the key. Don't get hurt first.
Yeah.
Does that make sense now? Hey, Kristen.
Yes, and we're showing you how not to do that. We're here with Dr. Creech, and he's going to put me through a quick kind of scenario. This is what you do to your athletes when they first come in here and they say they have an injury, right?
Yep, every athlete we put through this quick little test. We just want to see, you know, where their dysfunction is, not necessarily where their pain is.
All right, so let's see where my dysfunction is.
Okay, so you want to face this way? It's fine.
Face this way?
Yep, so put your feet together, hands by your side, and rotate to the right. Okay, good, and then to the left. Okay, so you know, you rotate really well to the left, not so well to the right, so we want to see kind of where and why that's happening. So let's have you, let's just lay on your back.
Okay.
We'll just start with your hip. So what I want you to do is just go ahead and rotate as far as you can.
Okay. And this is measuring range for?
We're measuring your active range of motion for your hip.
Okay.
Okay, and bring it out as far as you can. Okay, and that's good. Let's do this side. Okay. Yep, that's good. Okay, and you winced a little bit there.
Sorry.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is that you don't have as much range of motion, active range of motion, as you do passive, so we were looking at a strength issue in this hip.
So is having a hip issue or one hip weak a common thing?
It's common for people that are injured. So if you have an asymmetry, whether it be your hip, your shoulders, there's compensation that has to occur. It just naturally has to happen, and eventually that wears out.
All right, well, we are going to continue to dive into my results because it looks like I'm injured.
Just a bit.
Well, what I find interesting there, and I'm sure hear more, is when he talks about hip injuries, because you don't think of younger folks having hip injuries.
Exactly. Chad and I were both, you couldn't see us, Kristen, but we were both kind of rotating, seeing which way we were.
Did you guys diagnose yourself? Because I came in here with a lot of diagnoses for Dr. Creech. I was like, well, this hurts me, so I think I have this, and I think I have this, and
Oh,
told me to relax.
I'm sure
He's a
he loves that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kristen. In tip-top shape, at least the young athletes, and it's important to know before you work out whether or not you have any injuries, and that's what Kristen's doing this morning.
Yeah. How are you, Kristen?
Good morning. Yep, that's right. I'm getting spring athletes prepared in case they have any injuries or what they can do to prevent any injuries happening for their spring season sports. So far, Dr. Creech has put me through a few series of kind of tests he gives all his athletes, and we found out that I have a weak hip. Great. Now we're going to see what other dysfunction I have. So what is the next test we're going to do?
So we're going to do a squat. It's a really easy movement should be an easy movement for athletes. General population be a little bit tougher, but go ahead and stand with your feet about shoulder width apart.
Is this okay?
And just squat down as low as you can.
Okay. It's not going to be too low.
Okay, and then back up. And that's pretty good. The one thing that I see with you is you do lean way forward, so it tells us there's something going on either in the spine or the hips, which could lead again to back pain or knee hip issues.
So now I know we have a little bit of a model here. You were saying that, like, again, you just mentioned with the general population. So why is it a little bit more difficult? So kids that are in spring and that are in athletes now that are kind of in high school, it's easier for them. But why is it kind of difficult for us?
The general population, we tend to sit for long periods of time or do, stand for long periods of time, but we don't move a whole lot. So take a person who sits for 6 or 8 hours a day and they're constantly sitting in this flexed position, their spine is, flexed. It's really hard for them to get into extension. So when you sit here for a long period of time, you start to lose some of the natural curves in your back and things tighten up and you're just not able to move. So when you go to pick up something, you have a greater risk at injuring your back.
All right, well, we went through these series of tests, and coming up a little later in the show, we're going to show you how, if you do have any of these dysfunction problems, we'll show you how you can go ahead and fix them.
All right, keep up the good work, Kristen.
Yeah.
We're all sitting here like, what's wrong with us? But
Yeah.
that's
Hips,
6:13 now, checking in with our friend Kristen Aguirre, who is getting your spine in shape. Hey, Kristen.
That's right. So Dr. Creech just went ahead and put me through a series of tests, and my results, not good. I have a little bit of a hip injury thing, something's wrong with my spine. I'm just all over the place. So what is the first thing that you do after your athletes finish these tests?
First thing, we need to establish proper range of motion before we do any strength exercises. So if you want to lay down, we'll show you how to do that.
So we're going to
come on over
fix
here
me up.
and lay with your head facing this way.
Okay.
On your side, facing me.
This way, facing you? Okay.
Yep.
I can't even get that down.
Yep, so the first thing we're going to do is, this is called ART, and it's a very good way to get rid of some of this scar tissue that's been building up from overuse injuries throughout our life, and just establish that good range of motion that we need. And it can be a little bit sensitive.
It's kind of like a good hurt.
Yep, that's what it should feel like. And again, we're trying to get all this motion back that you'd lost. So,
why is it so important to do this first before going straight into movement?
Well, if we go straight into movement, you kind of just reenact the same dysfunction. So we need to fix that problem, then we need to teach you how to move correctly.
Now, are hip problems, ooh, that popped. Are hip issues common?
Very common, yep. Okay, did you want to get up and try the squat now?
All right, so now we went ahead and did my, what is it, the ART?
ART,
yep. And then we're going to dive here into some movement. So coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to continue my process to recovery, and we're going to dive into one more exercise.
I wonder how she hurt her hip.
Well, I'm wondering,
age.
and I'm sure you can find this out, if
I am training for Bridge the Gap. Hello.
But if you have a hip injury, does it affect other parts of your body? And it might not, because you seem surprised that you have a hip injury, but do your hips ever hurt? Or?
Well, what he was, Dr. Creech was kind of telling me in between breaks too, is that he thinks that when I'm running too, I'm dipping on one side because this side is weaker, and
putting pressure on it.
That's the repetitive movement from training is what's going to be causing that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, every step you take, everything you do throughout the day, for some reason, that weakness is causing you to dip on one side, which causes excess strain on your hips and knees.
There you go.
There you go. My question answered. Thank you so much. All right, it's time once again to check in with Kristen Aguirre, who is out and about in Quincy today.
Yeah, what's going on, Kristen? Getting a kind of a workout with the hips, it looks like.
That's right. So I went ahead and we had my ART training. And what does that stand for again?
Active release technique.
So we noticed I went through a test, had a little bit of a hip issue. So doing the ART, what is that going to help me with?
The ART helps you get rid of scar tissue, first and foremost, helps you heal faster, and it gets your body moving in the right direction.
So we need to do that first before we we needed to do that first before we kind of did any of the kind of change the range of motion stuff.
Yeah, we always do that first because we want the muscle to stabilize and fire effectively before we try and get you into an exercise.
Okay, so now it's time for my exercise. I had a little bit of problems also with doing my squat, so this is what it's going to help me with. This one's good, right?
Yep, so we're just going to show you how to do a proper squat. So go ahead and take the hands there, kind of scoot back. Yep, and then just get in that squat position.
Okay.
And go down as far as you can.
But staying forward, right?
Yep, so what we're looking for is she was leaning way forward before, and what we need to do is get her into this good spine position here. Get the knees out a little bit, there, and you should feel the stretch somewhere.
Oh,
where do you feel that at?
I feel it everywhere. I feel it in my hamstrings and then in my back. And
Yep,
then
so
in my quads too.
this is just telling us where she feels this is where things that need to lengthen. Okay, so usually in the hips, the spine here, and just getting in this position and staying in this position is a really good functional stretch, and then coming out of it, so go into an actual squat. So go ahead.
All right, well, we're going to continue to work out here, and coming up a little in the show, we're going to go ahead and go over the most common injuries. Dr. Creech is here, and a little bit of advice he can share with you at home.
Excellent. Look forward to it. Thank you so much, Kristen.
All morning long, we've been following Kristen Aguirre, who is just across the street from KHQA studio, finding out ways to work out different parts of your body that may have been injured in the past.
So you don't re-injure them in the future. Here she is now. Hey, Kristen.
Hi, good morning. Yep, that's right. Spring athletes are hitting the field already, and before they get on there, they need to know a few tips so that they stay healthy and safe all year. So before we went to break, Tegan asked us a quick question about some hip alignment. So what happens if one hip is higher than the other?
There's a couple reasons that the hip can be higher than the other. One could be that this joint here called the SI joint is stuck or not moving as well as it should. So manipulation or adjustments to this area can help with that. Secondly, you have muscles that attach to the front of the hip, and they're your hip flexors. So if one is pulling tighter, it will cause that to drop down, which makes it seem like one hip is higher than the other.
So what can you do to kind of relieve that? Obviously see a doctor.
Yep. What we do is we use ART, okay, to free up this hip, take the tension out of that muscle, and then we can also do adjustments here if that's needed also.
All right. So before athletes hit the field, or even if they're on their field, what are some tips that they need to know so that they can prevent injury?
Listen to your body. Don't overtrain. Overtraining can feel like, burnout, you're tired, you just don't feel like you want to go to that practice, that kind of thing. When that starts to set in, you're overusing your body and you're probably going to wind up with an injury.
All right, so just make sure don't overtrain, and to kind of come see you guys in case you have an injury, because if you do feel something right away, you say to stop, right?
Yep, so come if you have an injury, come if you don't have an injury and you want to prevent injuries.
All right, well, for any more of these tips, you can always check out our website, connecttristates.com.
What I took away from that was don't overtrain.
Don't overtrain.
Check. Done.
Yeah, exactly.